Hi everyone, thanks for your patience as I organize the next set of videos for our lessons. As I mentioned before, I am an English teacher, but I was a classically trained musician also. So I will use music over our next lessons because it is the best tool for learning emphasis. Emphasis is the key to communication in any language, and each language has its own specific emphasis that is difficult to achieve. It may be easy to hear, but it's difficult to produce. Now, music has been a tool very particular to my own methodology that I'm very happy to share with you, and I know that you probably haven't seen from other teachers. Now, don't worry because you don't need to read music to be able to understand what I'm trying to express. Also, the subject is emphasis. So, where you hear my voice going, I want you to practice in that way with the rhythms that I'll show you. Now, if you feel on this journey that you've just been learning rules, nothing that you can apply to real life or etc., I think now this subject will bring you into practicality. Modals and modal phrases are the best way to express. And without these fundamentals, you can't communicate how you want to say something, even if you know what to say. The first thing I'd like to begin with is polite request, but also this includes ability. So let's take a look. So here we have 4 different requests. Let's look at the difference, if there is a difference between them, not only in meaning, but in the way that it's said, or emphasis. So we have, may I recommend something? Or could I recommend something? Or can I recommend something? Or shall I recommend something? What is the difference in the intonation of our voice? To explain, it's better to show you first the definitions of these particular requests. Our next examples. I am able to play volleyball. I can play volleyball. What is the difference, if any? Next, we have a spectrum of advice and demand. Now, this gets a little complicated, and I'd like to follow along with music. First, we have, you should study English online. Where was the emphasis? It was on the recommendation or the idea, never on should. But let's continue. You ought to study English online. Ought to is a little more direct, a little colloquial. I prefer should. Next, you're supposed to study English online. This can depend on the way that you feel because it is an expectation. So, instead of saying, I expect you to study English online, you're supposed to study English online. Or, sorry, you're supposed to study English online. Next, you have got to study English online. Can be exaggerated also, but it is a strong necessity. Now, is it a demand? Yes, but it's less than the next one. You must study English online. Now, if you noticed, I emphasized must. If you emphasize should, for example, you should study English online, that's sending a different message than you should study English online. If you emphasize must in the wrong place, you're sending the wrong message. You must study English online. Sounds like a robot. You must study English online. So let's try to avoid some sarcasm by putting the emphasis in the right place. As I said before, I'm going to show you a little music to accompany our lesson. You should study English with Jeffrey. Now, I'm giving a recommendation, right? Jeffrey, my advice. Next, you have to study English with Jeffrey. Now, have to is less of a demand, but it can replace need. And last, you must study English online with Jeffrey. If you can hear the difference in my emphasis between that demand and the first advice, you are on the right path. Take a listen again. You should try English with Jeffrey. You must try English with Jeffrey. Next we have, you had better start English correctly to do well. Had better will represent advice with a potential consequence. There's an implied or. Next, we have, you had to start English correctly to do well. This is simply have to in the past, so you're representing a past necessity. And last, you must start English correctly to do well. That is our strongest demand. Now, let's look at all of the definitions just so that we're clear on advice versus demand. So, thanks for your attention during this lesson. We're going to stop with our spectrum of advice and demand because it's already a lot to learn. I'd like to talk a little bit about how this journey will go. In our next lesson, we will continue with modals and modal phrases. And then we'll get into more of how to create structures in the English language. So please tune in for more videos. Make sure you subscribe and have a great rest of your day.